What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome back to the Motor City Bluebeard podcast, where we talk all about all the Detroit sports. Brand new channel here, just starting out, and we've got some big breaking news. But if you have fun hanging out with me talking about the Lions offensive coordinator hiring, I would love it if you would subscribe so that you can see when my next video comes out. Give me a like, throw a comment. I respond to everyone. I'm excited to talk to all you Lions fans and Detroit fans, sports fans in general, but specifically today, Lions fans, about this offensive coordinator hire. So let's get into it. I was recording a weekly update video. I was thinking of doing a video where I just talked about all four of the major sports teams in Detroit, updated on the past week. But that's going to have to wait for another week, because while I was doing all that, I got the news, the breaking news, that the Lions had hired a new offensive coordinator, and I had the same reaction many of you probably had, and I said, who? Who the frick is this guy? So I have been doing some research, diving in, and I'm here to pour a little bit of water on the fire, the rage that is building inside of you, and talk it through and let you know the positives, the negatives, and my feelings on it. So here we go. So the Lions are set to hire Drew Pelzing as their new offensive coordinator. He was the offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals under Jonathan Gannon, who was fired after the season, so he needed to find a new job. Being on that staff, he needed to go elsewhere. So he wasn't specifically fired, but who knows? The fans were not happy with that team from top to bottom, so he may have been. But let's look a little deeper. Let's look at who Drew Pelzing is. He is 38 years old. He actually has an interesting connection to the Detroit Lions that I'll talk about in a minute. But let's talk about him individually first before we get into the tea leaves. He's 38 years old. He was a assistant with the Minnesota Vikings. He coached at Boston College to kick off his career, and then he was an assistant at the Minnesota Vikings for 2014 through 2019. Coached the wide receivers in 2019, and worked with Stephon Diggs, who had a great year that year. Then he moved to the Browns, was a tight ends coach in 2020 and 2021, worked with the quarterbacks in 2022, worked with Jacoby Brissett, who we had at Arizona this year. And, you know, that probably wasn't the best, but Brissett had some success, I suppose. But that propelled him into his first offensive coordinator job, which was with the Cardinals. And the first 2 years went pretty well. He created an offense that was tailored to Kyler Murray's skill set. He was thought of as an offensive genius, an up-and-comer. At one point, he was seen as a top 10 offensive coordinator before this year. And in 2024, he had a 3,000-yard passer, 1,000-yard rusher, 1,000-yard receiver, which was pretty impressive. He rushed for over 24. His team rushed for over 2,400 yards, which was third best ever for a Cardinals team in their history. His rushing yards per carry was 5.29, which was 16th best in the NFL history. So that was pretty good. His overall offensive rankings have been in the mid-teens. You know, he's never been at the bottom of the pack. He's never been at the very top of the pack either. Always kind of in the middle. Rushing, he has been top 5. So he had some success there. This year they had a lot of injuries. The team was a little dysfunctional overall, and the staff, the fans were not happy. Jacoby Brissett did find some success this year, has been kind of went off quite a bit. So, you know, he did do a good job again tailoring the offense to his personnel. So he has been good with that and getting through the injuries, but just not good enough. So there's been some things to like. There's been some positives there. He's young. He's been thought of as an offensive genius, called that by players, coaches, people, experts in the NFL, media, all that stuff. People were pretty high on him. He was getting some head coaching looks before this year, or some head coaching buzz before this year. I will say that I did not know anything about him. I didn't know who the Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator was. And maybe that's my own fault, but this was kind of out of left field. Nobody was talking about him as the candidates and people that were getting interviewed. Clearly, he got an interview and they liked it. So I think there's two parts to this that I think made this hire happen. One, familiarity with the Lions staff. Drew Pelzing is a very good friend of Ben Johnson, Bears head coach, former Lions OC. They coached together at Boston College, became really good friends, and he was actually one of Ben Johnson's groomsmen at his wedding. They're still close. So I'm sure that he's met and talked to the Detroit Lions staff through all Ben Johnson's time there. I'm sure Ben Johnson gives this a glowing stamp of approval. And something cool to think about with that, if we want to try to put our positive hats on and think positively, an offensive genius like Ben Johnson, being good friends with someone else who's been seen as an offensive genius or described that way, could be a good thing. Their minds could work similar. That's maybe why they click and get along. Just saying they've learned they started out at the same place and kind of learned under the same people at Boston College. So that could be interesting. And a reason why I think this might have happened was, if you look back to Dan Campbell's press conference at the end of the year, he talked about offensive coordinator position, and he said, maybe I'll just keep calling plays so that I don't have to worry about a guy leaving. So that could be a big part of the decision and the direction they chose to go. You bring in Mike McDonald, and he goes off with the Lions offense. They do great. Is he going to be a coach this following year somewhere? Most definitely. Mike Kafka, he comes in. He goes off with the Lions offense. They look fantastic. Is he going to be a coach the following year? Head coach? Most definitely. You could go down the list with some of the candidates that were rumored and some of the ones that we would like them to look at. A lot of them probably the same thing. Now, is anybody going to hire Drew Pelzing if he goes off next year and the Lions are great? Probably not after 1 year. For sure, because they're going to say, look at all that talent there. They just got somebody who's more confident than John Morton and figured things out. And he's good at tailoring his offense to the players and their skill sets. And, it might take 2 or 3 years of a good offense before he starts getting head coaching buzz. So maybe Campbell thinks, I can bring this guy in. He's young. He's up and coming. Ben Johnson approves of him. They are similar in some ways. I'm not saying that. I'm saying maybe that's what he thinks from knowing Ben and knowing Drew. And most of all, he's not looking for a head coaching job. He's not getting interviewed and leaving after 1 year. Maybe I can keep him a couple years and we can do something special here. So that's probably the direction I would think that they took, and that is why I've seen the message boards. I've seen the comment sections. Leave me a comment. Let me know how you're feeling. I'm sure you are angry and disappointed. I am too. I really wanted them to get Mike McDaniel or Mike Kafka or somebody else that just is a huge offensive mind, that their offensive have been crazy. But remember, we love Ben Johnson. And when Ben Johnson got the job, it was like, who's this guy? A tight ends coach, an analyst? Oh, geez. And he ended up being amazing. Maybe Drew Pelzing is going to be amazing too. We just got to see what happens. Another thing to remember is you're going to see a lot of comments from Cardinals fans saying, good luck with him. And I've looked at the comments, message boards, all those things, looked on Reddit to see what they said about him through the season and stuff. And a lot of it is the similar things you hear about every offensive coordinator complaining about: inconsistent play calling, not sticking with what's working, going away from that and doing something that won't work, and all those kinds of things that we even said about Ben Johnson at times, and that every fan base says when they're frustrated with a team and with an offense. So it's hard to tell. He up until this year, he's gotten a lot of praise. A lot of people thought he was a great offensive coordinator and that he had a very bright future. So the more I read into him, the more I read about him, my anger and rage goes down some. I'm still bummed that we didn't get one of the bigger names I wanted us to get. And, you just have to hope that it's going to work out. At this point, it is what it is. And I've seen enough positive stuff that I think with the weapons Detroit has, he's never had an offense like Detroit's. He's never had a QB like Jared Goff. He's never had a running back duo like Montgomery and Gibbs, which let's hope Montgomery comes back. That's for a different video. He hasn't had receivers like J-Mo and St. Brown and Tesla. He hasn't had a tight end like Laporta. If they can fix up that offensive line, Laporta's back healthy, and this guy is a genius and able to build an offense tailored to the players that they have there, like he has in the past. Maybe this could end up being a sneaky good hire, and we could be in a year saying, Drew Pelzing is the man, DP. I don't know, maybe not. What to think of a clever nickname, either way, if he's good or bad. But this could be a good hire. Maybe it'll allow for some continuity. I do think ever since I heard Campbell say that, I have kind of felt like they're probably not going to swing for the fences with a guy that's probably going to be gone in a year as a head coach. So I'm not surprised, but he was not on my radar. I didn't even know who he was. But now it is interesting. I'm finding out more to hear about his connection with Ben Johnson and to look at some of the stats, some of the things he's done, some of the things people were saying about him when things were going good before injuries, and it was just that whole coaching staff was on its way out the door this year. But this is a risky move for Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes as well. They're sticking with Kelvin Shepherd for another year, unless his interview today is with the Dolphins. I don't think he's going to get it. I don't think it's a real interview, but who knows? But they're planning on sticking with him for another year, as far as everything that we've seen. So they're tying their hopes to a young defensive coordinator in Kelvin Shepherd, who I love his passion, I love his fire, but the defense underwhelmed last year. Maybe if they're healthy, they make some smart moves on defense. Maybe they'll be better next year and there'll be improvement and we'll be fine. But they're really banking on these two young coordinators being good. If Shepherd flames out and the defense is terrible next year, and if Pelzing flames out and the offense struggles and is disjointed and Campbell takes over play calling again and they have to fire Pelzing, the seat's going to start getting warm if we miss the playoffs again and have a bad year, especially if it's because of their coordinator decisions. So let's hope they both go good. I do like that he's young. I do like some of the numbers I've seen of his time at Arizona. I like the connection with Ben Johnson and that they're friends and that they have similar mindsets and both have been called offensive geniuses. I like that. And I like that he's built and tried to tailor offense to his players' skill set, and he's not just trying to pigeonhole players into his one offense that he thinks will work no matter where he goes. So there's a lot to like. I'm going to keep digging into him, look up some of his press conferences and interviews, hear him talk, see what we get there, and just dig more into his time at Boston College and at Minnesota and at the Browns. But yeah, we've got time. So I expect some more content about Drew Pelzing. But for now, I just wanted to make a video and put it out there to just say, here we go. Hopefully this can help some of you go from who to all right. Because I think that's about probably where we're at. I don't think this is going to be seen as a slam dunk hire until he proves it on the field. And of course, get ready for a lot of Bears, Packers, and Vikings fans, and rightfully so, to make fun of us in the message boards and comments, and Arizona Cardinals fans probably to say, good luck with that guy. But we'll see. Like, I laid it out. Now you have the information, and you're probably looking up some on your own. We'll see what happens. But that's it for this video. Again, your new Detroit Lions offensive coordinator, former Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator, Drew Pelzing. We'll see. Go Lions.